Welcome to the hippest trip in pro wrestling and the premier platform for pay-per-view punditry. This is the Chain Reaction, presented by Place to Be Nation and the Kings of Sport.
Swing low, time to move on. Light years in time, ahead of our time. Free your mind, come fly.
The time is right now. The place is right here. And the show? Well, this is the hippest trip in wrestling podcast. It's the Chain Reaction. This is the program where a panel of pro wrestling pundits are prepared to pontificate on the positives or the problems of the pay-per-view, which we just perused. I'm your host, the Godfather Nate Milton. Welcome to episode 2 of the Chain Reaction. We are a co-branded production of the Place to Be Nation Network and the Kings of Sport. So you can check this out on Place to Be Nation as well as the Kings of Sport. So all that disclaimer and backstory and telling you how we are here, how we got to hear from there. Now that that's out of the way, we can talk about the biggest show of the year. I don't know if it was the best show of the year. It's probably going to be the longest show of the year. We, of course, are talking about WrestleMania 35, which took place this past weekend. Coming to you from New York City. You can't see my air quotes on the podcast, but hopefully you can hear it through the tone of my voice. But I am not alone on this panel today. We are joined by two guests to give their thoughts on the biggest show of the year, the ultimate thrill ride, if you will. And let me introduce our first panelist. He is a friend of the program. He comes to us from the True North Nerds. You can check him out at truenorthnerds.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful and talented Brent Chittenden. Brother Brent, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. This is the first time I get to be on a wrestling-based podcast where I get to talk about wrestling.
We're not going to talk any Star Wars, no Marvel, no DC. We're just going to talk about wrestling.
I'm good with that.
Even though we did get like the Thanos snap from Alexa Bliss early.
Yeah. I joke with my wife that Alexa Bliss is ex-wife number 3.
Oh, and our second panelist this week is somebody that I'm sure the Kings of Sport audience knows very well. He's appeared on the show multiple times. He's also the host of the 20 Twin, which is a political podcast that can be found on the Kings of Sport Patreon page. He is a political science professor, a longtime wrestling fan, and one of the most opinionated brothers I know. Give it up for the man hailing from Los Angeles, California, Kris from LA, the professor, Kris Ealy. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. How's it going?
I am doing well, fellas. I have recovered from WrestleMania, and so it's going to be good to talk to you guys this week about the show. For those who are joining us for the first time, who didn't get to hear the first episode of the Chain Reaction, this show is a little bit different than most of your reaction shows or post shows that take place after these WWE pay-per-views, because we like to keep things confined. You know, there are certainly other shows you can go to if you want long, deep, in-depth reactions to these shows, including Place to Be Nation's WrestleMania 35 reaction show that you can check out on the feed right now, featuring Chris Zellner and Devin Hales. But with all due respect to those guys and some of the other great reaction shows out there, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to find our own lane, get in where we fit in. And the premise behind Chain Reaction is we got about 6 topics that we're going to go through rapid fire, kind of like Around the Horn, but for pro wrestling. And, we're just going to have fun with it, give our opinions. And, we're going to go home early, brother. We're going to be like Brock at WrestleMania. We're not sticking around for everything, man. So first of all, fellas, let's find out the results of this massive 7-hour endeavor that we all went through. I was gonna say I'm gonna read through the results quickly, Brent, but let's just say I'm gonna read through the results because I don't know how quickly I can read all of these.
Yeah,
matches.
good luck.
The night kicked off with a match for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship, which saw Tony Nese defeat Buddy Murphy in 10 minutes and 40 seconds. Then we had our WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal for the Women's Battle Royal Trophy, which may or may not be named the China Trophy in the future. Spoiler, it won't be. Carmella won by eliminating Sarah Logan at 10 minutes and 30 seconds. In the match for the Raw Tag Team Championship, we saw Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder defeat the Revival, Dash Wilder, and Scott Dawson in 13 minutes and 20 seconds to become your new Raw Tag Team Champions. And in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, we saw Braun Strowman eliminate Colin Jost in 10 minutes and 20 seconds. So that wraps up your pre-show. Now, it is time to get into WrestleMania proper. We kick things off with the aforementioned Brock Lesnar, who was not here to play around tonight. Brock Lesnar, in a match for the WWE Universal Championship, lost to Seth Rollins in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Granted, this was after about 6 or 7 minutes of Brock beating Seth down before the bell, but Seth got the comeback, hit 3 curb stomps, and is now your new Universal Champion. Next up, AJ Styles defeated Randy Orton in 16 minutes and 20 seconds. The Usos defeated Aleister Black and Ricochet, Rusev and Nakamura, and The Bar in a fatal 4-way for the WWE SmackDown Tag Championships in 10 minutes and 10 seconds. Shane McMahon, the best in the world, Kris, defeated The Miz, one of your favorites.
Yeah, of course.
In a Falls Count Anywhere match that went 15 minutes and 30 seconds. In a fatal 4-way tag team match for the WWE Women's Championship, the Iconics defeated the Boston Hug Connection, the Succulent Samoans, Nia Jax and Tamina, and Beth Phoenix and Natalya in 10 minutes and 45 seconds. Samoa Joe retained the U.S. Championship over the injured Rey Mysterio in 1 minute. Roman Reigns defeated Drew McIntyre in 10 minutes and 10 seconds. Baron Corbin defeated Kurt Angle in Kurt Angle's last match in 6 minutes and 5 seconds. The Demon, Finn Balor, defeated Bobby Lashley for the Intercontinental Championship in 4 minutes and 5 seconds. In Brent's main event of the night, we saw Drax the Destroyer defeated by the King of Kings. Triple H beat Batista in a no-holds-barred match, 24 minutes and 45 seconds, the longest match on the card, folks. Kofi Kingston is your new WWE champion, defeated Daniel Bryan in 23 minutes and 45 seconds. And in your main event, in a winner-take-all triple threat match for the WWE Raw Women's Championship and the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship, Becky Lynch defeated Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair in 21 minutes and 30 seconds to become your new Raw and SmackDown's women champion. So let me take a break. That's the results, fellas. So let's get into our categories here. First category, and I think this might be a unanimous decision. What was your choice for best match of the night? And we'll start with Kris. Kris, what was your best match of the night?
Oh, that would be Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston. It actually exceeded my expectations because I really just didn't know what WWE was going to do. So that one.
What about you, Brent?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I kind of figured that work rate wise, this was going to be one of the best matches on the card, and I'd say it was. And the WWE has a nasty habit of setting up what we really, really want in a match, and then taking away the finish as a way of telling us, no, we will tell you what you want. And I was a little worried that was going to happen here, but it was good. They pulled the trigger on Kofi and gave him the belt. So I was really happy about that.
And that's unanimous for me. Kofi Kingston, Daniel Bryan was the best match on the show. Not only was it technically one of the best matches, guys, but as you mentioned right there, Brent, the emotion in the match and the response from that crowd, that was the highlight of the show. It was the high point in terms of the crowd response, and it's probably, other than the main event with Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda, it's probably going to be the only thing, or one of the few things, that is remembered from this show if we look back, 15, 20 years from now.
I'd completely agree with that.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, WrestleMania ended after this match. Everything else was just kind of there. So
everything that happened to use the term Brent is familiar with, everything post Kofi and Daniel Bryan is out of continuity. It's non-canon.
Yep.
Right, yeah. I would wholeheartly agree with that.
So the last hour and a half of WrestleMania was the Elseworlds.
I'm really glad too that the New Day stayed in character for this match. That was the other thing I was going to worry about. It was are they going to help out Kofi win the title which would sort of sully the win a little bit? But no, the closest they did is they kept what's his name? Rowan. Yeah, I always get the two mixed up weirdly. They kept Rowan out of the picture, so it was a fair fight the entire time.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it a little bit later because I'm sure this will be probably the big topic of the show this week, fellas, is this Kofi Bryan match. But how rare is it that we get false finishes that we actually buy and believe? And I think everybody in that stadium bought that knee was the finish.
Yeah.
And when Kofi kicked out, you were like, okay, something special is about to happen.
Yeah. I did too, even though I did go to WWE.com in the middle of the match and saw them post that spoiler there. I still thought that Bryan was about to win, but I was pleasantly surprised when Kofi won.
Yes.
And and it wasn't like some overly dramatic, let's kick out of everybody's finisher when he hit him with one Trouble in Paradise, and that was the way the match ended, and that's how it should have ended, and I was very pleased with that.
Yeah. Yep. So the Kofi Daniel Bryan, by far the best match coming out of WrestleMania 35, and in my opinion, there was some really great stuff on the NXT card, but I would say Kofi and Daniel Bryan is right up there with anything that happened during WrestleMania week.
Yeah. From what I've seen, definitely. I haven't finished the G1 special yet. There was so much wrestling to watch this weekend.
Yes.
Yeah.
A ton of wrestling.
But definitely.
I think I was the most. There was so much good wrestling this week, and I think I was the most emotionally vested in the Kofi match. So from that standpoint, I'm gonna have to go back and watch G1 and all the other stuff. But I was very emotionally invested in the Kofi match, and so that was kind of I thought that would make me automatically give WrestleMania a 10 out of 10, and then the rest of the show happened. So
well, let's go from the match that you were the most emotionally invested in to maybe a match that didn't connect with you at all. And so let's talk about our most disappointing match at WrestleMania. And Brent, I'll let you take this one first.
Disappointing. Are we going with bad or disappointing with this category? Because
it's a good distinction. That's a good distinction.
Yeah, because disappointing, I guess for me in a weird way, was probably McIntyre and Reigns. I think just by that point in the night, because it was on after Kofi and then after Joe, Joe and Mysterio, I was just kind of done, and there was nothing in that match that really brought anything to me. Like, both guys worked pretty hard, especially McIntyre. But there was nothing there for me. So if we're going with disappointing, that would be my pick.
Yeah, let's stick with disappointing, Kris, because there were some matches that were technically in ring worse than Roman and Drew, but I could see how that could be one of the more disappointing ones.
Right. For me, the most disappointing, and it's probably going to be worse too for me, but just Triple H and Big Dave. It was, that match went way longer than it should have ever went.
Yeah.
The build was garbage, and then
it started off so hot though. That's the disappointing thing to me, Kris, is it that angle with Ric Flair. Like, it started off very emotional, and the seeds were planted on the the 1000th SmackDown.
Yeah.
And it felt like it didn't really. They didn't stick the landing.
Yeah, the beatdown that he gave Ric Flair was great. And then the follow-up promos, it just, nothing really ever stuck out to me, and then the match, and this has been Triple A's thing for the last, few years, is just these plunder matches where, they're just hitting each other with things. And this did not need to be 25 minutes. Nope. I don't know why it was that long. And it was,
because I don't do under 20 minutes at the big show, brother.
Yeah. He's got to scale it back a little bit if he's going to be an executive.
I'm going to have to agree with you, Kris. I'm not going to go as far as to say this was the worst match on the card, but I will say it was certainly the most disappointing for me.
Right.
No disrespect to my main event co-host, Scott Criscola, who I'm sure is listening, but I think this match kind of is a microcosm for WrestleMania, guys, because I think there was probably a really strong 10 to 15-minute match inside this 25-minute match.
Yeah.
And WrestleMania, I think, was a really great 3 or 4 hour show that was stretched to 7.
Right.
I think that's a really good way of putting it, because I don't want to say that it's something like, oh, Batista wasn't trying. I think Batista in that match was giving it all that he had. Like, he was taking stuff in that match that no sane actor of a multi-million-dollar franchise probably would take. And you got to give it up for him for that. But I just think, I think what that match should have been shorter. I think both guys should have had some warm-ups in between, and maybe it was due to Batista's schedule, and it may have been something like this may have also been better had Trips been able to work before this, because he blew out his pec or his he blew out something in that last
the crown jewel.
Yeah, so I wonder if it was one of those things that they planted the seeds for Batista to come in, and they really weren't sure if Triple H was going to be ready for this or not. So they kind of left it, and then oh no, he's good to go. Well, we got 3 weeks to build this now, and and Batista meanwhile is well, I'm filming a movie. It's so
they continue to let Dave down. I think it's this guy keeps coming back, and they're the roles they have for him are just not servicing him all that great. And I guess that was his retirement match. I really do want to see him go out on a better match.
Yeah, because he has come out after WrestleMania on his Instagram and subsequently on Twitter saying that was his retirement match. Wrestling retirements are, you got to take them with a grain of salt. But like Brent was saying, given his movie career is taking off, of course, we got Endgame coming up. He's going to be in Suicide Squad 2, Guardians 3. This Stuber movie looks the Stuber movie looks pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a couple people I know who have actually seen that, a work print of it right now, and both said it's very good as it is, but if they over the next couple of months when they tighten it up, by the time it releases in July, it should be a really funny movie. And they're two people I know from like opposite ends of that spectrum who both liked it, so I have high hopes for that film.
Yeah, so but Batista doesn't need this, man. He's a movie star.
Yeah, he really doesn't, man. And kudos to him for coming back, especially after, we did him the the last time he was around.
I thought they could have leaned. Again, this is because they didn't have enough time. Well, I don't even know if we can really give them that excuse though, because Kofi and Daniel didn't have a lot of time.
Oh, that's true.
And that story was well told. But I think they could have leaned into the Hollywood aspect of it a little bit harder with Dave.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't let Dave dig in the way he could have.
No.
He was originally supposed to be in The Chaperone, was one Dave Batista. That was his movie that Triple H stole from him.
They could have had a Chaperone 2. Put Chaperone 2 up. Whoever wins the match can star in Chaperone 2.
Yeah. That's like, I think, they didn't hit on those real life points, like Triple H is not a good actor. He's not good in anything. I mean, I wanted to see those digs, but I guess Triple H
Chris,
wasn't.
Blade Trinity is a national treasure.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like he killed Triple H single-handedly killed the Blade franchise. I won't go that far, but he contributed.
Anybody seen my dog?
Yeah, I would say as somebody who's read some articles on that, Wesley Snipes had a good hand in killing that last one too. So.
Yeah.
Hey,
I love some Wesley Snipes, but
I think there's enough blame to go around between Snipes and Boyer.
That was spread. I mean, if I was Wesley Snipes and I read that script, I probably would have had an attitude with everybody also.
Good point.
I did love seeing Parker Posey in a superhero movie though, because I love Parker Posey.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah.
But you know what is not great? Actually, no. This segue doesn't work at all. Actually, it does, because I'm gonna flip the format so my segue will work. You know what's not great, Chris?
What's that?
A penny stock, and that is our term here on the Chain Reaction for a performer that came out the worst from this event. So which performer, Chris, do you think stock was diminished the most from WrestleMania 35?
If I was gonna say, and this is kind of, I think it's like a tie for a lot of people. I'd go ahead and say Rey Mysterio. And Rey Mysterio is one of those guys that can't really get hurt by L's. But he was dressed, his attire, he looked like a massive dweeb in that ring gear he was wearing.
But Chris, don't you get it? He was dressed as Mysterio, and he's Rey Mysterio. Get it?
Yeah. And then the gear he wore on SmackDown a couple weeks earlier was even worse. Him losing to Joe like that, I really.
Do you think because I guess Ray was injured, do you think they should have just skipped the match instead of doing the 1 minute squash?
Well, I mean, I guess if he's able to like go in there and give the rub to Joe, then they probably did the best thing they could. I don't know what Ray's contract situation is looking like. I mean, they had to give him a WrestleMania payday, because I know he wasn't necessarily like thrilled about going back there, but he's trying to do a solid for his son who's wrestling now. And
speaking of, what's up with Dominic no show in WrestleMania? What's going on, brother?
Yeah, that whole angle was completely dropped.
Right. Yeah, I have no idea, man. I'm almost kind of glad, because that would have been a little. There's certain things that like I'm forced to suspend my disbelief on with wrestling. Brothers not liking each other, I can suspend my disbelief a little bit more. But a father and son, like especially those two,
right?
I've seen too much of them online. I just wouldn't have.
I don't think anybody would have wanted to see a Ray Dominic feud.
Yeah. I certainly don't.
Especially like Dominic hasn't been training that long. Like that's, maybe do that when Ray is ready to close out his career. Dominic's got a couple more years under his belt by that point, and Ray's ready to close up shop. That's when you do that kind of angle.
Yeah.
I agree.
What about you in terms of the penny stock, Brent? Which performer came out the worst for you?
Oh, so many choices on this show when you really look at it. I guess special mention has to go to Elias. I don't think this Cena in old school rapper Cena gear. And do you think, on a side note, do you think Cena got paid more that they had to put him in Yankees gear? He's a big Boston guy.
He's a hardcore Red Sox fan.
He's the Babe Ruth of the WWE now. That's what we're led to believe. So maybe he'll come out in Boston colors now from when Babe Ruth was originally with the Red Sox.
Yeah. So beyond Elias, weirdly, I think Corbin probably comes out one of the worst people out of this.
Yeah, he was going to be my original choice, actually.
Because he beat Angle and nobody cares. Like, nobody gives a crap that he beat Angle other than, like, you're the person we got stuck with that beat Kurt Angle in his quote-unquote last match.
And the company actively made reference to that on their broadcast. Like, we know you don't want to see this match.
I was just hoping that, like, my original thought for that going in, because we knew Cena was supposed to do something, was that Angle squashes Corbin, just, like, goes out and suplexes him into crap, and then Cena's music hits, and, like, well, since you only had a 3-minute workout, how about going one more time with me? And then Cena helps close that, because that was Cena's first match in the WWE, right? On the main roster was with Angle. So you have that nice symmetry, right? Like first one in, and then he's able to give him the last one out. But and like it's
hindsight being 2020, Brent. If you wanted to do the Lars Sullivan debut that we got on Raw, he could have did that after Kurt squashed Baron.
Yeah, that would have worked too. And then like Corbin did not benefit from this at all. And if anything, I think he came out worse.
Yeah. That's a really good
I
pick.
agree.
I would lean towards Baron Corbin, but here's the thing, Brent. I think when I'm evaluating these penny stocks, I like to see who was at a higher point and had a higher fall. And I don't think many fans had an extremely high opinion of Baron Corbin, but one dude that I think most people thought was a main eventer or at least a strong upper mid-carder was Braun Strowman. And after WrestleMania, was anybody talking about Braun Strowman?
No. I was thinking he's on that Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa diet after watching
it. Look, as long as he's not on that Sammy Sosa skin cream routine.
Yeah.
But the whole, like, if you're gonna do the celebrity involvement, I think it needs to not only, promote the celebrities, in this case, Michael Che and Colin Jost from Saturday Night Live, but it needs to elevate your talent. And I don't think through this whole storyline with the SNL guys that Braun was elevated. In fact, I think it made all three of them look like jokes.
Now, I don't have cable. Did this get any mainstream attention on like ESPN or anything afterwards? Like, were these was that a highlight reel on anything?
Not really. It kinda got some attention. I did see it here and there, but it was. I mean, nobody cares about that,
Yeah, it was like on like Extra with like Mario Lopez.
Oh, yeah. An extra is part of the NBC Universal family, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So.
Like they didn't even like I might have missed it, but I watched Saturday Night Live this past week, and even at the weekend update desk, there was no mention of it. So it's like if those guys don't care, why should we care?
Right.
Yeah, the guy I watched with mentioned that too. Is like, why wouldn't they have cracked a joke or two, and it's filmed in New York, have Braun Strowman show up and threaten them or something. Like,
yeah, like go on the news, or like something, and none of that happened. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And honestly, like going forward with Braun, I'm sure you could get him into a big program with a guy like a Lars Sullivan, or somewhere near the top of the card, but he doesn't really feel like a main event contender now, particularly with Brock Lesnar being out of the picture.
Okay, so with comic books, so since we're all familiar with the world of comic books, there's this thing called villain decay, and it happens all the time on wrestling, where the villain is initially just the baddest guy on the planet and just destroys everybody. Lesser extent hero decay, but more often with villain decay. But then like the bigger villain comes, and then defines the that villain down some, and I think Braun Strowman, I think he's on his way to becoming like a Yokozuna or an Earthquake or a Vader or any of those guys that started off really, really strong and then turn into a joke. Because I just I understand the that he's gotten himself into this ridiculous shape and stuff, but I mean, I think he would benefit from a makeover, maybe getting rid of the beard or something. Because I mean, everybody's got that bearded look in WWE, and it's just kind of like do something different with the guy. I really don't know how to fix him in one fell swoop.
Yeah, I would say like he should go away for a little while, but he's already been away. And that did not help him at all. And I don't know, like you said, like a makeover would, but what do you do with him? Like I think if you cut off his beard, that guy starts looking like a Snitsky, which you really don't want that comparison to.
Yeah.
Oh, it's true. It's true.
So, yeah,
but like you said, though, like everybody has a beard. But
yeah, so that's why Braun Strowman gets my penny stock, because I think for somebody that was I was gonna say so high, a year ago, but if you look back to last year's WrestleMania, what was he doing?
Yeah, with an 11-year-old,
tag team with kid. So yeah, maybe they just don't know what to do with him.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, he's not a bad worker at this point either.
No,
I don't like.
For a big guy.
He must have pissed somebody off at some point, and he just hasn't dug himself out. And I don't know why or what.
I will say this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think that Strowman got too much from the beginning anyway, and I think right now he is where he's supposed to be. Because I just
saying he peaked too soon.
Yeah, exactly. I think he'll eventually get back to where he's taken seriously again, but I just think that he they had in all the stuff he was doing, he was supposed to be a good guy, but he just kept doing heel stuff like throwing Owens off of the cage and all that, and I don't know, man.
All right, so let's be like Braun Strowman and flip something over. Let's flip the penny stock over into the blue chip stock, the performer that came out the best. And again, I think we might be in unison here. So let's start with you, Brent.
I guess Kofi. Like if Kofi had lost that, if they had booked him to lose that match, Kofi's stock he'd be Dolph Ziggler. Like he would be that guy that would they're not going to get behind him ever. Why should I care about him?
And when they do, it doesn't matter because we've been fooled too many times.
So now that they pulled the trigger on him, it's definitely he is now, at least for the time being, in that upper echelon. And I'm hoping he gets to stay there for a while, because like just from a purely wrestling point of view, that shakes up that main event title scene for a while. Yep. Like we're eventually going to get one of the New Day members turning on him. I'm hoping it's like 6 months down the road, but knowing this company, it'll be next week.
I've got something to talk about that when we get to the Spin It Forward section of the show. But
I hope you do, because I really like what you've mentioned online.
Yes.
So, but
me and Lance Storm were workshopping on Twitter last night.
Yeah. So because of the win, I think Kofi, like, he was high up there to begin with, but now it's confirmed. Like, he's not going to have a crash anytime soon, I don't think. I think he's got at least a couple months in maybe not holding the belt, but being on that level with everybody else for a while before something else screws it up.
What about you, Kris?
Yeah, I definitely have to say Kofi. I think I do think I heard all these bogus, dumb theories, and I think this is just WWE's booking that had people to say all this stupid stuff about, yeah, he can lose at Mania and then blah, blah. No, that was not an option. He had to win at Mania.
Yep.
In the fashion that he won, and nothing else would have sufficed. Nothing. So he's better off. Hopefully he stays that way. I think he'll be good in that spot for a while, and hopefully he'll turn on the seriousness a little bit more. The guy that poured that orange paint on Randy Orton's NASCAR. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, it's a unanimous here. Kofi Kingston is the blue chip stock for me, because if you had told me a month ago or 3 months ago or 6 months ago, guys, that coming out of WrestleMania 35, Becky Lynch or Seth Rollins wouldn't be the top babyface in the company, I would have said you're crazy.
Yeah.
But after WrestleMania 35, I think there's a strong case to be made that Kofi Kingston is your top face in the entire company.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Yeah, no, yeah. There's no argument on me on that one. He is the number one face of that company, bar none right now.
Right. I'm actually disappointed that I didn't go to Mania this year. I was choosing between Mania and All In, and I picked not All In.
Double or Nothing.
Or Nothing. I picked Double or Nothing because had I known that the Kofi match was going to be so early on the card, I know New York City like I know LA. So I would have left WrestleMania right after that match and went to Scores or something, man. I would have.
You would have gone with Cheetahs with the Godfather.
Yeah, I would have had some fun, man. I feel bad for those out of towners that don't know the subway schedule in that city.
Yeah.
I would have bolted out of there. I would have gotten my money's worth, left after Kofi, and
especially when you know the show's not ending before midnight.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, that's why I give it to Kofi, man, because Kofi, to me, even more so than Rollins, even more so than Becky Lynch, is a fresh face. He is somebody that the crowd's connected with. The whole story with him and the New Day has been really great. And that leads us to our next category, our final category, which is Spin It Forward. And it's where we take, a particular storyline, a particular feud, a particular character, and predict what's going to happen next for them. And I will go first since we teased it. And I'll stick with Kofi Kingston in the New Day because, like Brent said, there's a lot of fresh matchups with Kofi as champ. Of course, we got the Daniel Bryan rematch. We got Randy Orton, AJ Styles whenever he gets back from injury. All the guys Kofi beating the gauntlet match. Like, there's a lot of interesting matchups you can do. Like, even I could see because they're doing the gimmick of Kofi being a fighting champion. I could see like a one-off 1 week on SmackDown where Kofi gives one of the Usos a shot since they helped him out. And we get a fun little match with Kofi versus Jimmy or Jay. And then that could be a good little, 15-minute TV main event. Mm-hmm. But my big story for Kofi Kingston going forward, Brent mentioned it, and a lot of people online have been talking about when's the New Day going to turn. Like, some people were expecting the turn to happen at Mania, which I think would have ruined the story.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that would have been so stupid.
So the people are like, how do we break up the New Day? How do we turn particularly Big E, so we get this feud with Kofi Kingston. And I don't think we turn any of them.
Right.
And I was working with my writing partner, Lance Storm, last night on Twitter. And my idea is Big E wins Money in the Bank next month. And he is conflicted about the cash in, because Kofi has reached this mountaintop with the help of the New Day. And Big E is like, he wants his shot, but he doesn't want to effectively stab his brother in the back. Not just his brother, but his mentor, somebody he looks up to. And Kofi the whole time is encouraging him to take the opportunity, but Big E won't take it. And then finally, we get little hints here and there of Big E's frustration, and we can even tease the turn, but we never pull the trigger. We never go that far with it. And it culminates, because I wanted this to go to Mania, but Lance, railed in my expectations. He's like, in today's WWE, the best you can hope for is maybe SummerSlam. So I say Big E announces ahead of time, like maybe a month before SummerSlam, okay, Kofi, I'm finally going to do it. You and me at SummerSlam. And we get this great match between these two. You got Xavier Woods, through this whole story has been kind of like the middleman, the mediator, when tensions start to flare up, and he's calming everybody down. So during this match, he's just going crazy on the outside because he doesn't know who to root for. His big brother in Big E, or essentially, in storyline, kind of a father or uncle figure in Kofi. And we finally get Big E in a callback to Shawn Michaels and Triple H in a kind of, I love you, I'm sorry moment. Big E and Kofi have been fighting this whole time. Kofi's worn down, but he's not giving up because that's not what Kofi Kingston does. And Big E is forced to put down his mentor, and Big E wins the title. But after the match, it's no beef, it's no turn. It's just two people, and then we get a hug, appreciation, and Xavier goes in and they celebrate the new champion, Big E.
That's pretty good.
With that. I would even be cool with a Heart Foundation kind of breakup where, Kofi is the Brett in this scenario, and then Big E is the guy wearing baggy checkered pants. Well, maybe not that, but Big E goes to another show and gets into another feud, and then eventually they revisit Big E and Kofi. I don't know how many people would buy a breakup of those guys. I think there's
you can't, like,
teams,
after what we saw at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
When we've got all three, like Xavier Woods is in tears and Big E is getting emotional, and you got the kids coming out there, and we saw it at the Hall of Fame. Like, these kids are effectively, they look at Big E and Xavier like they're part of the family too.
Right.
It would not feel genuine to have like your typical wrestling heel turn from Big E. Like, it wouldn't feel real.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is like I want it to, if it happens, I want it to, I want them to have some time apart from each other, and then let's like, since Lance Storm reeled you back in, maybe I would go Survivor Series, or
when we have the two brands facing off.
Yeah. Because I do think they should be on different shows now. I do think that Kofi and Big E should be on different shows. And I have, for my flip it, I've got a situation about involving them that I'm going to discuss. But yeah, I definitely think they should be on different shows.
Okay, keep going, because Brenda, is your spin it forward involving Kofi and the New Day too?
I have a different version of yours, actually.
Okay, so let's let's hear Kris's and then let's hear Brent's.
Okay, so my version is that Big E goes to Raw, and Stokely Hathaway becomes his man. And then I would
wait, hold on, Kris. Who is Stokely Hathaway?
Oh, what's his name now? Something stupid. I forgot it.
What is his NXT name? I know it's like something random.
Yeah, it's they need to go back to Stokely Hathaway. I think, or even if they don't want to call him Hathaway, the Stokely part of his name was important. But
yeah,
I digress.
He should be Stokely Mason. He's Clarence Mason's nephew.
Right, yeah. I know, right? Let's just do that, yeah. But I would like to see, and I would like to see Stokely with a faction like he had in ROH, or not with like ROH. I'm not actually thinking of what's his name, Prince Nana,
Oh,
but
the embassy.
yeah, the embassy, not like, but yeah, I
Oh,
would
he is Court Moore.
Court Moore. Okay, yeah, no, it's so dumb.
Oh, what?
Anyway.
Oh, that's so bland.
Yeah, but
That's a speaking as a white guy, that is the whitest name out there.
I don't. Is that Is that a rib on Court Bauer? Like, I don't know.
I have no idea. Yeah, it's stupid, man. But yeah, I want that, and then I actually think I'm gonna defend Jinder Mahal a little bit. I don't think Jinder Mahal is a good wrestler at all, but I think when they initially turned him into a bad guy, it worked until Vince McMahon put his xenophobic paws on it and turned him into this, you know, anti-American nonsense. And I'm always of the belief that just because you messed up and made this guy a main eventer, it doesn't mean you should, okay, since he's not working as a main eventer, you should make him the biggest jobber in the company. I think there's a happy medium with that, and I think that he should be put with Stokely Hathaway as well. I think that a couple guys in a faction with him, like I would say someone like a Jinder, or because they've defined Jinder down, but I think the guy he's definitely on the Barry Bonds diet. I can't say that emphatically, give him
no reckless speculation, Chris. The Chain Reaction is a bastion of journalism integrity.
Right.
Hey. He said diet. It could be what Barry Bonds was eating, like a particular brand of cereal, or maybe he has like plain chicken breasts every day, like for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right. Yes. Exactly. That's exactly what I meant.
Okay, so you got Big E with Stokely in a faction.
Yeah, I have Big E, Stokely, and then just like
or Court Moore. Let's use his Christian name.
Yeah. Let's use a slave name actually. Use Court Moore, and just a couple guys. I think that they would benefit from that.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Jinder. Was that all for your spinning it forward, Chris?
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay.
And then
so that's how you break up the day is through the superstar shakeup. That's how you break them up.
Yeah, I'd break them up in this shakeup, and then just have them revisit that later.
Okay.
I'd probably put him and Wentz together.
Yeah, because you could still get use out of them as a tag team while elevating Big E as a singles guy at the same time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about you, Brent? You said you had a take on my fan fiction here.
Yeah. So to be fair, I really liked your idea. Like I was watching it on Twitter, you and Lance workshopping the thing, and I think that is probably the best way to go. But in my world, Vince McMahon is busy with his football league, so Trips is allowed to do long-term booking, and I think if you stretch this out to Mania, the only thing is you need an opponent to pad out the time between Big E getting his shot. So like I like the idea of the Money in the Bank, Big E wins, but the opponents that they've got to contend with for a good chunk come the superstar shakeup, when they're going to bring some people up and move some people around, stuff like that, is we get a perfect foil for the New Day in the Undisputed Era gets called up. Adam Cole and Red Dragon. Maybe not. It seems like Roderick Strong, they might be separating from the pack. So just those three guys. So you got 3-on-3. You can do multiple iterations of that.
And Kingston would be a great title program.
Oh, yeah. Those matches and the mic work out of it would be spectacular. But my idea is eventually Adam Cole wins off of Kofi, and that's when Big E cashes in Money in the Bank. And then you could build that up much like you were talking, where like Big E is the champion, and
now
from
Kofi's in a weird position.
Yeah, and eventually maybe get to a point where Kofi is the one who turns. But I'm talking like,
wait a minute. Okay, let's keep workshopping this. Let's keep workshopping this, Brent. Okay, because I like your idea. The one thing
I think
that
Big E could make a really good champion, and from what you see online and stuff like that, he's such a happy, cheerful guy. For him to switch to a heel right off a bat, I don't know if the crowd would accept it. But if you put that jealousy thing in there with Kofi, like he's had the taste of the title, now he's addicted kind of idea, right?
And a way that you can get him right back into that title picture, Brent, is because I never thought in a million years Kofi Kingston would be WWE champion, but I always thought, and I've said this, I probably said this to Kris before on a show or two, by the end of his career, Kofi Kingston should be awarded a Royal Rumble win just out of like a gold watch for all of his hard work.
Oh, hell yeah.
Kofi wins the Rumble, and now we're back to Kofi and Big E. Like there's no way Big E can avoid it now.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. Yeah. And like I think out of that you get, if you go by WWE timeline, you could get probably at least 5 to 6 months out of that before they completely do the whole storyline. Yeah. But in my version, I think if you throw a couple other people in there, like Brian is eventually going to be involved too, and things of that nature, like you could probably stretch the whole thing out to a year.
Yeah,
and, like to the Kofi turn at Mania, or maybe just the pay-per-view before that.
I like it. It's funny how all of our thoughts coming off of a WrestleMania where we had a historic event with the women main eventing, all of our thoughts are about the guy the guy, if I can say this in English, the guy whose match ended an hour and a half before theirs even started.
Yeah, well, we also know like the kind of fallout, right? Like Rhonda is now out. Like whether she was going on sabbatical, like we all think she was, or not, she's got a broken hand, so she's probably out for at least a month, if not more. And that's not even taking account if she's planned to be out. She's probably out for 3 to 6 months, like with the sabbatical idea, if not even longer. Because she wants to start a family and stuff. That like she could be gone, or gone for a couple of years. So there's that, right? And I don't know if I want to see Becky and Charlotte like right away again. To me, that's something that like I think both women work really, really well together, but you don't want to burn that out completely.
No,
like then you get Cena and Orton is what you get if you keep doing that.
Or you get Charlotte and Sasha, which was great, but they went to that well too many times.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's like I don't care who wins that match. Like I just don't. So you save that. You build but in the meantime, like I don't know who you build up. I guess after Monday, I guess opponent number 1 is Lacey Evans.
Yes, Lacey Evans. And we got a passionate promo from Dana Brooke, which set the world on fire.
Yeah. So they're lining up the blondes all right in a row, I guess.
Brent, you and I have, and Kris, we've all been, in interviews, whether you're talking about college or university or a job. When have you ever gone in and said, I might not be at the front of the line of candidates you want, but I'm not at the back of the line either.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly average and you need to hire me. Like that was basically Dana's push for a title match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Dana is kind of the result of they had an idea with her when they brought her in originally, and then they hired other girls who fit that same body mold and same look, who are better wrestlers than she is, but for whatever reason, they just don't want to cut her.
Oh, it's like if you play like I never got into Yu-Gi-Oh, but now like I've gotten into like these little mobile games which are basically based off of like a Yu-Gi-Oh card playing system.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like matter of fact, like WWE Supercards kind of like that too.
Yep. Okay,
Where you'll get like a card of a character that you really like, but then you get like 3 or 4 cards that are better than that card, but you just can't discard the original card because you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's my Platinum R-Truth card. I can't get rid of him.
And I don't think she's terrible. I just don't like when you compare her to what they brought up. She's not as good.
Switched underneath her feet basically because she kind of came in right before the evolution.
Yeah.
And then you get Charlotte and Becky and Charlotte and Sasha and now Ronda. And it's like the whole game has changed. And being good enough isn't good enough anymore for the women's division. Asuka. We didn't even talk about Asuka.
Oh, poor Asuka. Oh, okay. There would have been one. I completely forgot about her, which I guess says something about her standing in the company. She's another one where you could argue her stock fell, and she was on the pre-show.
Yeah.
Like that I thought for a while there she was going to win that battle royal, and then she got chucked out. And who wins that battle royal? Carmella? Are you kidding me?
and that just speaks more to WWE's xenophobia when it comes to talent from that region of the country, because it's like, I don't understand why she has to be the odd woman out, because she is great, and they hired her for. The reasons that they hired her for are what they're like using against her, not to give her just due. It's almost like they're just holding her so she won't go to another company. But I was very upset when and it's a bad look. They're wanting to do business on that side of the world, and representation matters, and I don't understand the thought process by defining her down just way as much as they have.
Here's where I always put her. My wife does not like pro wrestling. So when I am watching it, I am either downstairs watching it or I'm over at a friend's. I was going to say,
God bless her for suffering through her husband's fandom.
Oh, yeah. So she has 2 wrestlers that she likes that are not named The Rock. and one of them is Asuka. And it's because, in my wife's words, she's cute, she's fun, but she will kick your face off.
Yep.
And that must say something to her appeal. If my wife likes her, my wife doesn't like wrestling.
Yeah, my girlfriend likes Asuka too, and she hates wrestling probably as much as your wife.
There you go, right?
Yeah. It's like Asuka has an appeal, and I think that for a woman, a female role model, a role model for girls in general, but just to that community as well in that part of the world, they love her over in Japan, and I don't understand. And they loved her in America. That's the thing too.
It's
like, and they just what they've done with her is probably gonna be they dropped the ball with award for the year, because this is inexcusable.
I guess you could say the main roster creative team wasn't ready for Asuka.
Nah.
And on that depressing note, that's going to end this week's edition of the Chain Reaction, because full disclosure, it's Tuesday night, SmackDown is on, and I got to get to this Kofi Kingston celebration, fellas.
Yeah.
So excellent job by our panel tonight. You might hear from Brent and Kris on future episodes of the Chain Reaction. They might become permanent members of the Chain Gang, or they may just pop up from time to time, because this show is like the Hotel California boys. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Oh, yeah.
So before we get out of here, let's go around the horn for some plugs. Brent, tell the good people about True North Nerds and where they can find the show.
So if you like comic books and movies that are based on comic books and science fiction and fantasy, we talk about all that stuff on True North Nerds. We're a podcast based out of Canada, and you can find everything at truenorthnerds.com. Or if you just want to go for the podcast, look at your regular podcast subscription service. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, we're on multiple things.
Good stuff. What about you, Kris? Where can the people check you out at?
Okay, so they could check me out on the King of Sports Patreon on the 2020 Twin, where we're talking politics. I'm still the Nubian Wrestling Advocates. Now that Kofi has won the belt, it's kind of moved that first episode of the show when we finally aired into the area. Now we know where it's gonna go.
Yeah, and that show should just kind of spitballing on air here. We'll probably record that within the next couple of weeks, so it'll probably be out towards the end of April, maybe beginning of May.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a good time to see where they go with this Kofi run. Is it just a platitude, or is it something that's gonna last for a minute? And then and then I'm doing other podcast ventures here and there with guys local out here in LA. So I don't have a list at the moment, but when I do, just check me out on Twitter, KMEZ does it. That's the letter. I don't even remember. KME. I don't know. Christopher Marquise Ealy.
So you still recovering from WrestleMania?
Yeah. That's defined down. And shout out to Shane and Miz for wrestling each other on that show.
Shout out to Mrs. Dad for launching 1,000 memes.
Oh yeah.
For the listeners, I only had a couple words in my notes for that Miz match, and it was "fuck this finish" in all capitals.
I think that no other words need to be said after that about that match. Of course, I am Nate Milton, and you can find me on Twitter in the number 8 MOZAIK at Nate Mosaic on Twitter. You can check me out on Place to Be Nation's main event with myself, Scott Criscola, and the conscience of Place to Be Nation, Steve Willie. We'll be coming up with our big WrestleMania reaction show coming up this week, I believe. Should be out this weekend. You can also check me out, of course, on the Kings of Sport podcast with Marcus Vanderberg from Yahoo Sports. Again, want to shout out everybody for checking out the second edition of the Chain Reaction. We'll be back in August with a review of WWE SummerSlam. And again, you are checking out Chain Reaction, a production, a collaborative effort between Place to Be Nation and the Kings of Sport podcast. So, for Brent Chittenden, for the Professor, Kris Ealy, y'all been great. I have been Nate, and we'll see you next time on the Chain Reaction.